Alright, so normally I don't do this kind of stuff. Um, Usually it's just a little video showing that, yeah, you can do this. But in this case, there's a lot of crap up in the air. A lot of people who think that you need so many freaking cores, or an i7, or 8 cores, or 6 cores on an AMD FX to play certain games. Yes, there are certain games, as in one specific one, Far Cry 4, that absolutely requires 4 cores or 4 threads. A game cannot tell the difference between a virtual thread and a physical core. So an i3 with HT shows up as 4 threads or 4 cores for your average game. It can't tell the difference, okay? And the reason is because they decided they wanted to be dicks about it. I mean, this is Ubisoft we're talking about here. And they wanted to hard code something in the third thread to make sure that you have 4 threads to actually play the game, which in theory is fine, but in reality is bullshit, because you don't need 4 fucking threads to play a game. Well, most all modern games. I mean, Battlefield 4 definitely is improved, but that's only if you have the graphics horsepower to follow through. If you're playing mid-range, an i3 with a 950, 960, R9 380, whatever it may be, is perfectly acceptable. And I have a friend that's been doing it for the past couple of years. He went from a 650 Ti boost to a 680, and now he's running a 780 Ti with an Ivy Bridge i3. And guess what? He still plays fine. Most of the people buying these lower end rigs are going to be playing League of Fail. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody with that, but I don't really like the game. They're going to be playing Dota. They're going to be playing WoW. They're going to be playing these AAA games on lower settings. I mean, because it's a lower end graphics card. You're not going to pair an i3 with a Titan X or a 980 Ti or a Fury X or whatever. You're just not going to do that. You're not, period. So what I'm going to do here is I have Dragon Age Inquisition, which is one of the titles in the topic, downloading in the background. We're going to do that. I'm probably going to put in Battlefield 4, maybe a little Crysis 3, and the big one, GTA 5, which is not like its unoptimized predecessor, GTA 4. That absolutely required at least 4 threads because it was just so badly optimized. Rockstar really did a number on GTA 5, guys. You can play it quite fine with an FX 4300 or an i3, be it Ivy Bridge, although those are clocked lower. So in this case, I'm running a 3960X, and I disabled the cores, so there's 2 cores, and I have HT on, so it's 2 cores, 4 threads. And you're going to see that it's fine. So now that we're at the front-facing camera, I have at my disposal a GTX 970. I do not have anything less than that that's not really old. So I don't have a 950, I don't have a 960 or an R9 370, 380, whatever. I don't have any of those. So I'm going to show you here, before we get started, 2 cores, 4 threads at 3.5 gigahertz. That is a standard base clock with no turbo. I don't have the turbo on. No turbo on a Haswell i3. Something you'll get like out of the 4330, which is closer to $100 right now. Pair that with a $50 H81 board, you've got yourself a viable gamer. See, 3960X, disabled, 2 cores, 4 threads. I'm going to be doing Inquisition. I'm going to be doing Crysis 3, possibly Battlefield 4, and GTA 5. And in case you don't believe me, there's my rig. I'm taking all 3 of those bad boys out, and I'm going to put this bad boy in. Alright, so just so we have proof here, again, 2 cores, 4 threads, 3.5 gigahertz, GTX 970, not overclocked at all, completely stock. There it is right there. No help. All extra help is sitting right there. Let's get started. First up, we're going to do the Dragon Age bench. Now, as you can see, CPU usage is pretty high. This benchmark is kind of crappy, so I might do actual in-game play. It looks all sped up and weird. As you can see, now I cross-referenced a couple other people on YouTube, and the benchmark is weird for them too, but average FPS, 75. Alright, well, here we go. We got 100 frames a second, 80% CPU usage, slight bottleneck on the GPU, 73, average 70 or so. I'm using a combination of medium to high settings with 1920 by 1080 resolution. As you can see, there's a 970 right there. And when you move around, we're averaging over 60 frames a second. So, yeah, we're hitting hundreds. Now, this isn't with action scenes or anything like that. And as you can see, there is a slight bottleneck on the GPU. Sometimes a heavy one. But I mean, with frames per second being that high, it doesn't really matter all that much, and we're not really pushing it too hard. So, there you have it. Off to the next game. Alright, so here we go. GTA 5. GPU is getting pretty bottlenecked, but our frames per second are pretty high. And moving around, as you can see, moving around, we keep it pretty steady. 1920 by 1080. Mixture of medium or normal and high settings. No anti-aliasing, obviously. View distance is cranked because I forgot to turn it off. As you can see, so as I'll show you, since I forgot to do this in the last one. Graphics. Population density max, normal, 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 very high, off, high, high, normal, soft, very high. And under the advanced graphics, all of this is off. Because, I mean, it is a GTX 970. There you have it. So, who says you need 4 cores for GTA 5? Obviously, I'm not using all 6 cores and all 12 threads, because look at how high the GPU usage is. But I mean, come on, dude, an average of 60 frames per second, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. See? Still the 970. Titan X is still over there, out of the machine, so you know I'm not using them. So here we have Crysis 3. Another benchmark, just like its first predecessor. We have a solid 60 frames a second, and I think I left VSync on, so that probably will be higher. When I get into the settings, we'll probably see. Walking around, obviously I can't do mouse and keyboard at the same time while I'm holding the phone. And again, GTX 970, same rig, 2 cores, 4 threads, solid 60. This is all medium settings. Obviously, you could probably do a little higher. And I didn't do the dome because the beginning of the game used to absolutely kill rigs. So I'm doing this instead, and if it does this steady, it will do the whole game steady, basically. Now, so we'll go through the settings here. So as you can see, 1920 by 1080. And I did accidentally leave VSync on, so I'll turn that off here in a second. Texture resolution on high. System spec set to medium. So turn that off. Effects AA. Yes, we'll turn that off. Yep. Advanced graphics. So, all medium. Motion blur disabled. So, when we get out of here, we are maxing the game out for what you would consider a quote-unquote medium spec rig with a 970 over 100 frames a second. So I'd say this passed with flying colors. Alright, so here we go. The controversial game. Now, before I show you the frame rate, you can see that it is pretty goddamn smooth. Okay? Now remember, 2 cores with HT equals 4 threads, GTX 970, stock 3.5 GHz with no turbo. 85 frames a second, 82%, 83, so we'll say average 80% CPU usage. Average, we'll say 85% GPU. Now, I'm using the default game settings that the game itself gave me, minus the resolution. I put that on 1080p because, I mean, this is a 4K TV. So obviously, if you're buying a freaking mid-range rig, or low-end, you're not going to be doing 4K. VSync off, obviously. Quality settings, pretty much all on high. Now, you can hear it ramp up. It is working. GTX 970. Remember, my Titans are sitting right here. We're still good to go. Move over here. An i3 is perfectly capable. So, there we have it. An i3, Haswell, Ivy Bridge, probably even Sandy Bridge, even though those have lower clocks. It's gonna bottleneck the GPU a little bit, but still, they're all perfectly fine. Obviously, if you're running a mid-range graphics card with a 1080p resolution, as you can see, top-end titles are perfectly fine. I didn't do Battlefield 4 because I work 12 hours a day, and this is starting my weekend, so I just want to get this done and over with, edited, up on YouTube, and I'm good to go. Now, like I said, I normally don't do these. I do your typical, hey, look, this game will run on these settings with this hardware, blah blah blah. But in this case, I'm a little tired of the misinformation. Okay, you don't need 4 modules, aka effects 8320, 8350. You don't need an i7 because games, if they have 4 physical cores, the HT really isn't going to do much for you. If you have an i5, dude, you're golden. Okay. And before anybody even asked, I only have this i7 because I want it for free at QuakeCon. So there you have it. Yeah, I'm tired of morons saying, oh, an i3, you're not going to be able to game with that. You need at least an i5 or at least an FX 6300. No, that is obviously completely wrong. And if you're running a 950 or a 960, lower the settings a little bit, you're obviously going to be fine. That was just the point of all of this. So hopefully this gets the point across clear as day. I did the top end games, most of the AAA games that, well, besides The Witcher 3. I didn't do that one because we weren't talking about that one. But considering the fact that it plays those games, I'm going to say Witcher 3 will be fine. Lower the settings, don't use NVIDIA Hairworks. You're going to be completely fine. I'm just sick and tired of the misinformation. So, there you have it. If you want to argue, you can argue, but basically, this video just shows that you're going to argue to a brick wall. Alright, so have a good one.